Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Melissa Barrera, and I'm currently working with TheDream.Us and helping out with promotions. And I have my colleague Sadhana here, who will also be joining us today. And she and I will be hosting this webinar today for high school counselors in Illinois and Chicago, but also if there's other people joining, other supporters or even applicants, you're all welcome. And we're excited to get started and give you more information and answer all of your questions. All right, so first of all, thank you for joining and for taking time of your day. Just to give you a brief overview, some of you may already be familiar with our program, but in case you are not, so the Dream.Us is the nation's largest college access and success program for dreamers. Right now we have over 5,000 scholars in 16 states and DC, and this includes obviously Illinois. Our goal is to award over 7,000 scholarships overall, but right now we are focusing on this round, and we want to have as many applicants as we can, especially in the Chicago area, and I'll explain a little bit why. So if you have any questions, just feel free to write them up in the Q&A, and maybe Sad, can you help me explain how they can, speak out if they want to, or insert their questions as needed?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Sadhana. I'm Program and Communications Manager with TheDream.Us. So I'll be behind the scenes as Melissa presents to you all of our vital information. And I just put a chat in the box. I did a little welcome and I said you were free to comment in that box throughout the presentation. You can ask questions in that box. So that can be a running conversation for you. I'll be in there answering your questions or helping Mel to make sure your question gets answered. And also the second way you can get a question answered is to type in the Q&A box. So on your dashboard, you'll see a Q&A icon. So type a question in there or in the chat box. And feel free to send those questions in at any time during our presentation and we'll get them answered. Thank you.
Thank you all. And if we can, do we know how many viewers we have right now, Sadhana?
Right now we have about 6 people logged on.
Okay. So we did have more people register. So as people come in, we might do a little bit just a recap of what we've covered very briefly. So just bear with us. All right. So, and this video, just so you know, will be recorded for any of you that, if you need to leave early, or if you have other people that you might want to share this with, we will be sharing the presentation and the recording after we do it, okay? All right, so moving forward, just to give you a little bit of an overview, we have 2 types of scholarships. We have a high school graduate scholar, a high school graduate scholarship, and a community college graduate scholarship. So both of these are for students seeking a bachelor's degree. We give them up to $33,000 in tuition fees for tuition fees, books, and supplies. And this number also is including a stipend, which we give of $1,000 per year if eligible. And I must mention here that in Chicago, it's a little bit particular because we do right now have, of course, state aid, which we are encouraging for all of our applicants to apply for. And we are also encouraging them to apply to our partner colleges, of course, because they also provide some institutional aid. So yeah, moving forward. So we have this year was the first year that we opened our doors for not only DACA and TPS students, but also for all undocumented students who came to the US before November 1st, 2014. So this is huge. We've been in business since 2014, and I mean 2014, excuse me, since 2013. And this is the first year that we open our doors for our non-DACA or TPS holders and just for our overall undocumented community. So this is great news. And also, as you know, given the political climate that we live in, this was something that we felt the need to do. And so this is something that we really, really must highlight as we share with our students, as we share with with people and affiliates that we know and that that this is something that's new, because if someone has heard of us, they might have already have in their mind that our program is only for DACA and TPS, and this is not the case anymore. So we're excited. This year we have added a couple of new partner colleges, and here is a list of colleges that we have. We have Aruba College as our community college, as well as six other four-year colleges, universities in the Chicago area. And some of these are private, some of these are public, as you will see. And we're just very excited. Are there any questions as of now regarding the new eligibility, our new partner colleges? Just any questions, comments overall? I want to make a brief pause here.
Yes, we do have one question come in. It asks if there's a way that we verify if someone is undocumented. Louise says, I have a student awaiting her paperwork sent in to receive a green card, but she's not received the green card yet. Should she apply?
Okay, so we do make them sign an affidavit, just letting us know that they have read our eligibility requirements and they are eligible for our program. In this case, it sounds like your student, if she is getting a green card, it sounds like she won't be eligible, but I would suggest to her that she look into our eligibility criteria in detail. And Saad, perhaps you can send the eligibility criteria link on the chat box so they can have it, just to make sure, just to double check. But it does sound like she may not be eligible if she's receiving a green card. And Saad, perhaps you can add to that.
Yes, thank you. I also mentioned that as long as she came to the US before November 1st, 2014, she can apply as she awaits for the green card, because I know sometimes that process takes a while. So while she awaits the green card, she's completely undocumented, she can apply to our scholarship. However, once she does have the green card, she will need to report that to us and will unfortunately lose the scholarship. And that means then she won't be able to apply to FAFSA and be eligible for other aid.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the good thing about, we don't want to tell her don't apply for your green card or stop that process only for the scholarship, because there is so much aid, once she gets, her green card, and there are many and multiple opportunities. And like Sadhana said, just to reiterate, we will give them the scholarship as long as they are eligible, but that scholarship will be taken away, as in we stop giving them the award from that moment on. It's not like they have to pay back the scholarship, that money that we have given them already, after they have their green card. So great question. Thank you so much, and keep them coming. All right. So when we say a scholarship program, and if you're new to our program, we want to highlight this. We are more than just a scholarship program. We provide many other services for our scholars, such as, we provide information and webinars on job opportunities, on immigration info and updates. We provide the mental health webinars, any kind of support that you can think of, we most likely have covered it. Financial workshops. So we have a lot of partnerships, and the most important one being our partner colleges, which in each partner college we have a team of dedicated staff members that provide support to our scholars, and that we worked very, very closely with them to make sure that, you know, they're getting the right support, that they have, you know, the right information, etc. So it is a very they won't be going into this alone, and, you know, we providing the money and that's it. It's a very hands-on program, and especially our partner colleges are very, very hands-on. So just to consider that, because, you know, it is a very specific population, and we understand the circumstances that they are going through. Some of them harder than others, but college as it is it's a big challenge, but we try to make it as easy and most supportive as possible. All right, so just going into more detail, of course, we have a scholar advisor that knows the students and that meets with them at least once per semester. They make sure, you know, their GPA doesn't fall below a 2.5. If they need to go part-time, they are able to. If they need a break in enrollment, and just overall, they know their college, of course, and they know their community. So if they need other resources, they are able to plug them into other people and connect them. So it's a great model that has been working for our students. They also join a community of 3,500 fellow dreamers nationwide. So we do have a Facebook community team or site group in Facebook, and, you know, they motivate themselves, they inform, and they support each other. And it's just great to see how many connections and how many just opportunities and support they give to each other. And Sadhana can attest to that better than I can. We've had some scholars, you know, meet each other across, you know, from states to states. They form these groups, and then they, you know, they do all kinds of amazing things, such as groups in their specific college, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know, Sadhana, if you want to share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, they do such things such as get married. So my personal story, I'll share a little bit. I was a Dream.Us scholar myself. I graduated in 2018, and I've been part of this scholar community, this Facebook group, which, as Mel said, is very thriving. We get a lot of engagement from all our scholars around the country in there. They share resources, they share helpful articles, they ask questions, they help each other out. It's just a wonderful thing to experience and to witness. So I had been in that group as a scholar and actually met my now husband in that group. He was a Dream.Us scholar as well. He was actually living in a whole different state, but we met on Facebook in this group, and then later got together and moved together in one place. And so besides giving me the gift of higher education, this scholarship has given me, you know, my partner for life and so many other great benefits. So we're really proud of the work that we're doing, and we love serving our dreamers, you know, through this community.
Thank you for sharing. And I don't know if we can take the credit of you know, introducing you guys. You guys did all the work, but it's a great story. Thank you. All right. So aside from a community, we also have, we'll share a little bit about our application and selection process, which, of course, you know, our application timeline and deadline is coming up, which is why thank you. I know this is very last minute, but we really wanted to get to our Chicago high school counselors. And our application closes on February 27th. So literally 1 week from today. and our recipients are notified late April. So that goes for the application timeline. Our national eligibility criteria, I won't go into too much detail, but just to get a quick overview, a GPA of 2.5 is what we require. Test scores are optional if they have an SAT or ACT. And notice some of these are a little bit different for our community college graduates and or for our first-time college students. So they cannot have earned more than 21 credits at a community college if they are a high school graduate, and they must have graduated from a community college if they are a community college graduate, as the name implies. Residency, so they must be eligible for in-state tuition if the partner college is public. DACA or TPS, or meet our immigration eligibility criteria, which I mentioned before, which is to come to the US before November 1st, 2014. Otherwise, meet the other eligibility criteria, which you can look at the link that Sadhana may have already sent regarding our eligibility criteria. Right?
And this is a good time to jump in, Mel, with a question relating to this. We have a question from Martina. She asks, are all these colleges eligible for CPS graduates, or are some only for community college graduates?
Yes, so that is a good question. So we're very excited because we joined a partnership with the Pritzker Foundation, and thanks to them, we will be able to award more scholarships in Chicago. So just to keep it simple, because we don't want to get into the nitty-gritty, some of the scholarships that we will give out will be for CPS graduates only, but then the rest, as long as they meet the rest of the eligibility criteria, it doesn't really matter. So I hope that answers your question. So the answer is yes and no. Some of these will be allocated to CPS graduates. Some of these scholarships that we will grant will not. It doesn't really matter, if that makes sense. And any other questions, Sad?
No other questions for now.
I know we had some poll questions. Would you mind just looking them over and seeing if we need to launch them?
Yes, we can go ahead and launch the polls now. As you mentioned, DACA, TPS, or the immigration eligibility criteria. Would you like us to do that?
Yes, let's go for that.
Okay. So we're launching poll number 1. If everyone can just take a few seconds and please vote in our poll. The first question is, do you know what DACA is? We just want to get a feel for sort of the education around DACA and your awareness.
Yeah, and I know I mentioned DACA, so if everybody knew what it was, and maybe everybody does, but we want to make sure that if you don't, we go over what it is in brief.
All right, we have about 77% of you voted. I'll just give you a couple more seconds. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the polling and share the results.
All right, so most of you are familiar with what DACA is, and some of you are somewhat familiar but want to learn more. So basically, DACA is an executive action that was given by the Obama administration in 2012, which allowed a certain given population of undocumented students mainly, or youth, to have temporary temporary residency access to the United States, and this allowed them to work and to live legally in the U.S. DACA has been going away slowly. So no, what basically what the Trump administration did was stop the program and stop any new applicants from applying, but current recipients are still able to renew DACA. So students that may have, and I say students because it's not only students, it can be youth, it's youth, it's a certain population. Um, if they have DACA, they are able to renew. But if their time comes, goes, or I don't know how to word it, if it expires, then they are done with DACA. And Saad, you can maybe more eloquently speak to this, to our audience.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you said everything there is right there, and most of our audience is familiar. DACA is on the brink right now, on the edge. We know a lot of our applicant pool, a lot of our current scholars are living in anxiety and fear about the possibility of DACA going away as the Supreme Court makes their decision this spring or summer, which is why we opened up our eligibility criteria. As Melissa said earlier, we want to be able to let our undocumented students get the education that they need to get regardless of their status. So that's why we are so much reliant on you all to spread the word, to share this scholarship to any undocumented student, to make sure that they know that even if DACA goes away, or TPS inevitably goes away, they will still have the possibility of going to college with our scholarship.
Yes, and what our applicants, hesitation is, right now that it is in, we don't know what's going to happen to DACA. That's a real answer. And what we tell them, and that's one of their hesitations for applying, and that's why I think we will share with you this year, we have been low in our application numbers, and we think that's one of the main reasons. And what we tell our applicants is that no matter what happens, their education is something that it cannot be taken away, and that they can take anywhere in the world with them. So we highly encourage them to obviously look at their own, life and circumstances, but to really consider this opportunity, as education is important here and everywhere in the world where they may or may not go. So any questions after our DACA poll question or comments from you? Have you, if you work with, maybe we can launch the second poll question.
Sure. Yes, we can go ahead and launch the second one, just to again get a feel for our audience.
Yep.
So the second question, there you go. How many undocumented students do you serve?
This will give us a better idea. Thought, have we had new people join?
Yes, we're up to 9 attendees now.
Okay, great.
So I'll go ahead and close this poll and share the results.
Okay. Oh, wow. So one of you from 50 to 100, 100. So most of you serve at least 1 to 9. That's great. Perfect. So if you would be able to share with us, either the high school that you work with or the organization that you work with in the chat box, that would be great. Just so we have a better idea of where you're coming from.
And we do have one question, not related to DACA, but it's related to the SAT, ACT scores.
Mm-hmm.
So someone is asking, how heavily are the test scores weighted given that they're optional? So for example, if a student hypothetically scores below an 1100, they probably shouldn't put it there. So is there a way that the scores are weighted given that the SAT scores are optional?
Yes. So that's a really good question. So it is a factor that we take into consideration, but the main factor here for to have higher probabilities of receiving the scholarship, and I'll go into more detail in a little bit as we get more into the application, it will be their essays. So their SAT and ACTs are optional, and it is something that we look at, but it's not the deciding factor. So it does not have that much weight, I would say. Yeah, so let's get into the application because I know more questions will be coming and will come up once we get into the application. So what we ask from them is their personal information, immigration eligibility information, as we mentioned, their academic information, what PC they want to go to, and we really encourage them to really look at the partner college that they are applying to, and their high school and community college information if applicable. Financial information, we want to know if they're dependent or independent, and their annual household income. We don't ask them for any financial documents. This is we highly respect and expect them to honestly answer that question, but we really want to know, are you able to financially support yourself, or is your family able to take you to college or not? Because we want to give this opportunity to students that don't have that option and that that opportunity in their household. So our responsibilities: volunteer, community service, and home responsibilities. And I'll stop at home, and it always makes me laugh because our applicants are kind of puzzled at why home responsibilities. I go take out the trash and I help my mom translate documents, but this is very important because we know our students don't only do a lot. A lot of them work, most of them work, and most of them do some work at home as well, and they help out the family. So we do want to hear about it. We do want to hear about how much you take on at home, because we know it can be a lot sometimes. And the most important part of the application, which I will reiterate, is the essays. So this is where the students will be able to tell us who they are. We have two essays. The first one is educational and career goals, and the second one is regarding overcoming adversity. And I must say that this is the main portion of the application. They're not too long. They're 750 words each, but we do want to hear from them. And, as I mentioned, just we want to see who they are. So I'll give 3 tips in case they ask you, let them know of the scholarship opportunity. And Saad, perhaps you can write them in the chat box, please. So the first tip for them will be, make sure that they complete and they answer all of the questions. So the questions, it may only be 2 essays, but each essay question has multiple sections. So make sure that they answer the full question. So that would be tip number 1. Tip number 2 is have people overlook their essay. And it might seem obvious, but some students don't have or don't approach anybody to revise their essays, and it is very distracting to see a really good essay, but that's grammatically very or not well done, or that, you know, it's missing commas, points, etc., that we can avoid. So we really, really encourage them to have at least 2 people, if they can, revise their essays. And then the third one would be to, again, and I cannot stress this enough, to just be them and for them to be willing to share their story and to share part of themselves, would be the last and most important tip, because some students hold back from sharing or don't want to share, you know, too much. The people that will be reading their essays are people that are familiar and that have worked with the immigration community, or that are immigrants or dreamers themselves. So they really understand where they're coming from, and it's completely confidential. Their essays do not go out anywhere. And yeah, so just encouraging them to really speak up and use their voice as they want to, and to share what they want, of course, but we really want to make sure we get their, you know, their essence, their story in those essays, because that's what's going to make them be ahead of the game and stand out from the crowd. All right, so if we don't have any questions, I'll continue to move on. The supporting documents that we asked from them is their, for high school graduates or GED graduates, their official or unofficial high school transcript. If they took their SAT or ACT test course, and their official or unofficial transcript for any community college credits they earned after high school, if any. And then for the community college graduates, just their official or unofficial community college transcript. All right, so moving on to the national selection timeline. So what happens once they submit their application? We do look at everything. We look at their grades, their test scores, advanced courses, their responsibilities. Our selection timeline starts in March. So as soon as the application ends, this is when our selection committee, which is, again, a group of amazing, dedicated individuals, go in and help us review and score their applications. And then at the beginning, mid-April is when, actually, it's when they read the scores and they finalize the list. And by late April is when we award the highest scoring applicants or finalists for each partner college. So we do allocate our scholarships in each of our partner colleges. All right, so any questions before we get ready to wrap up?
So no other questions at this moment.
All right, so just a quote from one of our scholarship recipients, who is now actually an alumni. She's a teacher in the DC area. She says, don't let your status stop you from anything. And this is our message to you, to them. We cannot let this stop them from applying, from following their dreams and obtaining a college education. And if you don't have any questions, I do have some questions for you, so bear with me. Saad, do we have any questions or comments? Or anybody would like to comment by unmuting themselves and speaking out? That's also an option. We would love more engagement if you want to.
So we do have one question come in the Q&A box. Maria asks, is the scholarship renewable?
So yes, that's a good question. Every year they don't need to reapply for the scholarship, but they do renew every summer their scholarship. So the $33,000, just to break it down, will be divided into the 4 years or 2 years of college that they do to obtain their bachelor's degree. And remember, it's up to. So the cap, I guess, is $33,000, which they are able to receive in either 2 or 4 years. But yes, they do renew every year. They don't reapply. Good question. Was that the only question?
Yes, that's all we have for now.
Okay, so my question to you is, we understand this very short notice and that we send out the invite very late in the process. So thank you for joining us. So how can we reach more of you, more high school counselors, more supporters? What's the best way? And I'm talking about practical ways, like what days work better, what times work better, what forms. Was this webinar a good way to share information with you? Would you have rather just received the PowerPoint? We really want to hear from you, because we want to reach more high school counselors, because just so you know, you are, as we surveyed our scholars and applicants, you are the #1 source from where they get this information from. So the majority of our students and our scholars, they learned about the scholarship through you. So thank you. Anything you want to share? Again, days, times, any forms that we can better reach you?
You also have the option to raise your hand. So in your dashboard, you would have a little icon that says raise hand, and that means we will unmute you so you can talk directly to us. So let us know if you want that option as well. We definitely want to hear from you. In the chat box, we have a comment from Martina. She says, I think informational conference calls where we can ask questions would be very helpful. Thanks so much.
Okay. So informational conference calls, not presentations, is what I'm hearing, right? Just a phone call would be easier. Would you please clarify, Martina? Was that correct?
She hasn't clarified yet, but we do have another comment from Sophia. It says, I like this webinar.
Great. So what about dates and times? What would be like the best day during the week, or what would be the best time for you, for us to reach out or to do these kinds of webinars or informational conference calls?
And as folks type that in the chat box, we do have a question coming in from Jocelyn. Okay. She says, I'm not sure if I missed this, but is there an age restriction for this scholarship?
That's a good question. Do you want to answer that, Sadhana?
Sure. As far as I know, if there is no age restriction, you do have to come to the US before your 16th birthday. So that is in place because we want to make sure that you're able to go to high school in the US, because a lot of our colleges recognize you as a resident of the state once you've been to a high school in that state or graduated from a high school in that state. So we do have the sort of age limit of being 16 when you came to the US before November 1st, 2014. But as far as a maximum age limit, there is none. I myself was a scholarship recipient when I was 28, and I've been out of high school for about 10 years. So it doesn't matter when you graduate from high school either. You could have graduated from high school 10 years ago, as in my case, and then you can still apply for the scholarship. But I did come to the US when I was 13 years old. So I fulfilled that lower age requirement, but there is no maximum age limit.
Great questions. Well, I think if there aren't any more, oh, one more thing. that I'd like to mention before we close off. So it was very interesting. We had one of our alumni students present, well, not students, one of our alumni present in Chicago for some of for a specific audience. It was mainly students, parents, and some supporters and educators. And the feedback that he got from the people that were there, which I want to share with you, was that students were hesitant to complete their application because of the amount of the scholarship, which was very shocking to us, or at least to me, and very new feedback that we got. So they got a little, they apparently they got a little bit intimidated for the amount because they hear $33,000 and they think, oh no, this is too much. And we want to tell them, and if you hear any kind of feedback from your students, it is what college costs. You know, this is, and especially in Illinois, tuition and fees, as you know, are rising, and it's what the education costs. And with the help of our partner colleges, we're able to fully cover the tuition and fees. So we just want to tell them and tell you, we understand that 33K may sound like a lot, but it is what their college education costs. And we want to make sure that they have no debt, that they don't need to take out loans, and that their tuition and fees are covered. So please don't, and this is a message for the students, don't get intimidated by the amount, because they totally deserve it. And we are more than, honored to be able to give that award amount to them. So any more comments or questions, Sad, before we close off?
I have something to add to that, actually. That's surprising to me too. We find that we have to do a lot of education around the fact that our scholarship may not be enough to cover their full bachelor's degree. So we still do a lot of education with our scholars around finding all other forms of financial aid, applying for state aid if it's offered to Dreamers and undocumented immigrants, looking into other scholarships, looking into saving some money if you can, looking into, your family contribution or parents contribution, just making sure you have enough money along with our award to sort of round out your college expenses. So that is surprising to me too, but we know that we definitely educate our scholars on the bigger financial picture of all the costs of college, not just their tuition. So that's a very important point to make. Let's see, we do have a couple more comments. So Maria did note that during workday hours, during school
Okay.
day hours works best for her.
Great.
And then a comment from Jocelyn says, a lot of my youth are hesitant about going to college because they feel like it's a waste of time since they may not be able to work afterwards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is what we hear, right, Sadhana, from our scholars.
Yes, that is a very valid point. That is something that's very real, and we acknowledge that. But as Melissa said earlier too in the presentation, once you have your degree, you can take it anywhere. No one's going to take that away from you. Your education is locked and solid once you go through our program. Again, I'll use the example of myself and my husband. We both earned our college degrees from TheDream.Us in the United States. And because of that gift, we are able to take our college degrees to Canada, where we now live. So I'm actually working for TheDream.Us remotely in Canada because my degree is able to be transferred everywhere else. My husband's degree was able to get him a job in Canada. So there are options once you do have your education, once you do have your degree. So we want to be able to encourage scholars to go to college no matter what. We know that it's really hard. You may not be able to work in the field that you want to, but like Mel said, no one's going to take that education away from you, and you will have it for life anywhere that you go in the world.
Absolutely. And not to get into the nitty-gritty of the support services that we provide, but Sadhana and our team actually host these types of webinars to address these questions for our scholars. And for example, Sadhana, you just hosted a webinar that was in regards to helping students, work while undocumented, correct?
Yes, good point, Mel. So as we've opened up our scholarship to those without DACA and TPS work authorization, we realized that we also have a group of scholars who don't have work authorization, and we also want them to have jobs after they graduate. So we've partnered with a number of employers through our Career Connections initiative to bring employment opportunities to our scholars, as well as those without work authorization. And as Mel said, we recently did a presentation like this one on the options that you would have without work authorization. So for example, you can be an entrepreneur and start your own business. You can work as part of a co-op, a cooperative. So we try to put out all of these other options that we've gained from other immigrants and other dreamers who've been out in the world doing this even before DACA, when they didn't have work authorization. So it's not, let's say it's not impossible to work without work authorization in the US, but we definitely try to educate our scholars about that. We try to partner with different groups and companies and organizations that can help us provide those resources so scholars are not discouraged if they keep going towards their dreams.
Absolutely. And this is a beautiful thing about this scholarship, and I'll again highlight, is that you'll be going into a community. They'll be going into a community. Not only, will they be receiving scholarship funds. So any comments or questions after we touched on that subject? That's a very important one. And thank you. Thank you. I think it was Maria for bringing that up.
Yeah, so that was Jocelyn. And
Oh,
she has another question. Do you provide in-person workshops for employment? So I can answer that one too. We personally don't, the Dream.Us doesn't, but as I mentioned, we do partner with organizations that do. So for example, Year Up, if you've ever heard of the Year Up program, they do job coaching and career training, and we've partnered with them to have our scholars be trained on some of those things to get them job placements. We also partner with Braven. I know Braven is pretty big in Chicago, and we have a lot of scholars who are part of the Braven program. Last summer, we did a partnership with Braven where our scholars did an online Braven course for the entire summer for about, I think it was 6 weeks. So we're able to partner with organizations that do help our scholars, whether in person or through virtual workshops. And then recently we've partnered with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has been a partner with us. They hold regional workshops. So we've done LinkedIn workshops in New York, in California, in Chicago, and in the Bay Area, California, where our scholars show up. They work one-on-one with a LinkedIn employee to review their profile, review their resume. They get job coaching tips, career coaching tips. And we do this, as I said, in person and also virtually, webinars just like this one for our scholars. So we personally don't do them, but we do actively look for partnerships that will help us do that for our scholars.
Yeah, they are scholars, and this community has a lot of support, and
Yes.
we are very grateful for that. And I think that we don't have any other comments or questions. I think that'll be a great place to end. And on behalf of the team, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting our students, your students, and for helping us spread the word about this very important opportunity. And we hope to see our applications go up, especially in the Chicago area. We want to serve as many scholars as we can. And if you have any questions, Sad, we can type up our email address or my email address. Please feel free to reach out, and we are here to support you. And we thank you for supporting your students and soon to be our scholars. So thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.